Okay, I was waiting on my cue. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We know it's a Monday and it's, if you're like me, you just probably made it home from picking your child up or your grandchild or whatever, but thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for giving us your time this evening. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, I'm Candace Williams. I work for the nonprofit Rural Community Alliance, and I've had the pleasure as serving as the co-chair with Sayard for the Arkansas Coalition for Strong Families. So our vision for the Arkansas Coalition for Strong Families, I'll just read the first sentence or so. We have all of the information on our website, arstrongfamilies.org. But we have we envision an Arkansas where everyone, no matter their age, background, race, gender, disability, or status, has the opportunity to live meaningful, fulfilling lives in strong, thriving communities. So that's just the first piece of our agenda. Again, all of the information is on the website, arstrongfamilies.org. So the coalition members include AAUW Arkansas, Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, Arkansas Association for Infant Mental Health, Arkansas Coalition of Marshallese, Arkansas Community Organizations, Arkansas Education Association, Arkansas Public Policy Panel, Arkansas Support Network, Arkansas Waiver Association, Citizens First Congress, Disability Rights Arkansas, Hispanic Women's Organization of Arkansas, the Marshallese Education Association, Rural Community Alliance, and the Urban League of Arkansas, the state of Arkansas. So we started meeting bi-monthly about 5 months ago, Rebecca, about 6 months ago.
We started meeting last year, but to pick our policies, we started meeting in March.
Yeah, so initially we started last year, but we took a break and to start crafting our agenda for the 2023 session. We started about 6 months ago, meeting bi-monthly. All of the coalition members that I just listed, at each meeting for about, I think it spanned over 2 months or so, organizations that are a part of the coalition, they will present issues that they would, that their organizations would be advocating for during the 2023 session. We had a process where we as a coalition voted on the issues that we would decide to collectively advocate for in the 2023 session. And that's why we're here today. And we'll be at the Capitol tomorrow to release our 2023 legislative agenda. So our agenda items are under three bold solutions that are healthy kids, thriving communities, and strong care workforce. And we will have four of those agenda items, or our legislative agenda items, presented to you all today. We'll have Bruno that will cover postpartum care. Katie from AAUW, she will present on period poverty priorities. Neil Seeley, he will present over housing. And Sayard, my co-chair, she will present over disability services care workforce. No, Sayard won't be here, but someone will present over the disability.
Christian with Disability Rights Arkansas.
Christian will present over there. So Rebecca will wrap it up on a question of, or an answer rather, how can you all help with us trying to move this legislative agenda? And I'll just be back to wrap it up. But next you'll hear from Bruno.
Yeah. Hey, good evening, everyone. Appreciate that, Candace. Before I dig into the postpartum coverage, I did just want to give a little bit more of an overview of the broad agenda items that Candace mentioned there. So, the idea is that all of our organizations are often advocating, but we often advocate in our siloed areas where we're interested in this policy priority or that. But collectively, we decided that really all of our policies work together to kind of move us towards our vision of an Arkansas where everyone can thrive regardless of their race or their income, the zip code that they live in. And so we, as you mentioned, Candace, we kind of put that into three broad silos. So the first one, healthy kids, the logic being, let's start at the beginning. It's hard for people to grow and thrive into their full potential if they don't have a healthy start to life. So of course, healthy children and families is a critical component of a state where everyone can thrive. But no child or family is an island. They also need to live in thriving communities with public investments in housing, amenities, and services so that they can stay there and fulfill their dreams wherever they want to live in our state. And really the thing that ties those together, we agreed, was that we need a strong care workforce, whether that's fostering and nurturing our children who are going to grow up and be the workers of tomorrow, or also, for instance, people with developmental or intellectual disabilities who are no less capable or no less deserving of being able to fully participate in our society. They just need some certain supports that not everyone does, and that's something that we think the state can invest in. And so that's kind of our overarching idea. And so I'll start with, as you mentioned, Candace, I'll talk about our postpartum care policy. So within each of those buckets, we ultimately have 13 specific policies that we're pushing for. And one of them is to extend postpartum coverage for women on Medicaid from 60 days to a year. And the reason for that is that we know that the first year after giving birth is so critical for maternal health. And Arkansas has either one of the highest or the highest rate of maternal mortality of any state in the country. And so one targeted intervention that we could make that would make a big difference would be making sure that new moms can maintain healthcare coverage and can seek a doctor if they need any treatment for any reason. And so that's where we started, was it's hard for kids to be healthy and to grow into their full potential if we're letting their moms die before their first birthday. And so one of our top priorities should be doing everything we can to reduce that maternal mortality rate, which, is particularly bad for Black women, but all, women of color in general in Arkansas. And so this public investment in that targeted area, we think would go a long way to really helping to address that and making sure that, kids can grow up with their moms and have all of the pro-social nurturing development that we know is so great for lifelong outcomes. And so we all can, and as you said, Candace, although that's something that many of us have been advocating for over the years, that's not something that we've all come together and collectively asked for the way that we're hoping this coalition will do. And so that's the first example of a policy that we all came together and thought was worth advocating for and asking the state to invest public dollars into. And I think Katie is going to do period poverty next. So thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Bruno. So I'm Katie. I am the founder of the Arkansas Period Poverty Project, and I've been working with AAUW this year on some legislation and getting involved with y'all. And so we are really excited about two pieces of legislation. One is expanding on a bill that Representative Denise Ennett passed last year, which allowed schools to use pre-existing funds to purchase period products for students. And so we want to expand on that because it's not mandatory. A lot of schools are not doing that currently. And so we're looking at different ways of making it mandatory. Representative Ennett is looking at either requiring it or doing sort of a budget bill and allotting a specific amount of funds for schools to purchase these products. But 1 in 5 girls are missing school because they can't afford period products. And so this just furthers the cycle of poverty and puts girls behind their male classmates. And so this is something that we can, easily keep kids in school, which has been a really big thing the past 2 years. So we're very excited about that one. And then the next one is to remove the tampon tax. And so Representative Aaron Pilkington first introduced that bill last year, and he is going to reintroduce it again in 2023. And so there has been research done that Arkansans spend about $2 to $3 million on the tampon tax alone, which is about 8 to 10% on each, package that you buy. And so this is a very very high tax that if you're already suffering from period poverty, meaning you can't afford these products, the tampon tax just makes it worse. And we've seen, you know, in August in that special session that the state has a large surplus. And so $2 million is just a drop in the bucket for them, but a really large impact and burden on the regular Arkansan family. And this just doesn't affect women and girls. I think a lot of people think that, but my dad has 3 daughters, and he was the one doing grocery shopping and buying these products for all of us, and we all wanted different ones. So this really does affect families. Of course, it does primarily affect women and girls, especially single mothers who have daughters and things like that. But these are 2 really simple bills that I don't think people have really thought about before that can really improve the livelihood of women and girls and make sure we work towards ending that cycle of poverty. So very excited about those.
Thank you, Katie. Neil?
Okay, well, thank you all for having me here. Housing is for my organization, a very, very big issue, and particularly when it comes to the real desperate need in this state for affordable and decent housing. And we've seen a lot, particularly in not just Little Rock and North Little Rock, but other cities where the quality of housing is declining and the affordability of housing is becoming more difficult for renters. And so we've had on the books since 2009 something called the Housing Trust Fund. And it would be, it's supposed to be a flexible funding system that can be used for housing needs in the state. And so one of the main issues in housing is the need, but we've never really had a permanent funding mechanism. And so that is one part of our coalition's agenda to make the Housing Trust Fund real and get a permanent funding structure for it so that we can create more affordable and decent housing. But we can also use the funds to provide housing counseling and foreclosure counseling, which is, I went through a housing counseling program and was able to buy my first house. Had that not existed, I would have had no idea what to do. And so I think there's a great need for that in the state. The other thing is the pandemic has brought out a real need for alternatives to evictions. My last count in 2022 was from January through August 31st, there were 5,400 evictions reported in the state, and almost none of the people being evicted have access to legal representation. But other states have set up eviction diversion programs. There are some 47 now in states across the country. And what these programs would do is help tenants, help mediate and work out between the tenant and the owner a way to avoid eviction. People don't realize eviction is devastating. People become homeless in many cases. They carry a debt load with them, and they find it very, very hard to get back into a rental situation. So this is badly needed in the state, and we will have a banner year this year of evictions. So we need to address this and provide alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Christian?
Hi, I'm Christian Adcock. I'm the Voting Rights and Public Policy Director with Disability Rights Arkansas. And DRA is very excited to be part of this coalition. The wide range of issues that we cover all either indirectly or directly touch on the lives of Arkansans with disabilities. Disability is different as a group in that it crosses racial, gender, economic, political lines. Everyone knows or even has a family member or has a disability themselves. And so all of these issues pertain to people with disabilities, but I was going to talk about two in particular that both kind of came up during the last session, and we think that there's a real good chance that they could pass again. The first one is online voter registration. In Arkansas, we don't have a mechanism for online voter registration, which puts us behind the vast majority of states. And when it comes to people with disabilities, online voter registration has been shown to be easier for them in many ways. There's no travel, there's no postage. For some folks, handwriting is an issue. For some folks, taking extra time to fill out those forms can be an issue. And online voter registration helps with all of that. Additionally, it's a pretty good idea for the state to adopt it as well, because it saves money for the state. It saves labor on the county level with the county clerks. It promotes more accurate voter rolls. And as I said before, it's an easier process for people with disabilities. And it's also been shown to increase not only voter turnout among people with disabilities, but voter turnout at large, which in a state with the worst voter turnout in the country, we think is a pretty good idea. The second issue I was going to address is supported decision-making or guardianship alternatives of some sort. Currently, Arkansas has a very one-size-fits-all approach to guardianship for people with disabilities, where in order to obtain a guardian, you lose a whole host of rights and no one tells you what all those rights are. I've spoken to judges and lawyers who were unaware that when a person is placed under guardianship, they can no longer register to vote. And so I think it's something that the state would do well. He gets very excited about this stuff. I think it's something that the state would do very well to take a look at, to provide alternatives and setting up different methods that aren't a Byzantine chain of powers of attorney or a one-size-fits-all guardianship, but alternatives like supported decision-making or other things that allow people and their families to sort of set up a system for how much help they need in order to live their life with the most independence possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Rebecca?
So thank you again for joining us. I'm Rebecca Zimmerman. I'm the Community Engagement Director for Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, and we're so excited to coordinate this coalition. As we said several times throughout, all of the organizations that are part of this coalition, some of us work on very specific issues, some of us work on a wide range of issues, but we all saw across the board that there's no one policy that will help kids and families thrive, and we need to have a more holistic approach. So we're excited to be working together with this coalition. And we hope that you'll work with us as we try to pass the 13 agenda items that our coalition voted to support. We gave a few examples just now, but I put a link in the chat to our website, arstrongfamilies.org, where you can see the full legislative agenda that the coalitions voted to support. So some ways that you can get involved, if when I'm done talking, I'll put it in the chat, but you can sign up for action alerts from Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families. We'll be sending action alerts for the coalition about pressing issues that we hope that you'll call or write your legislators about regarding the different agenda items on the for the coalition. We also hope you'll follow us on social media and all the coalition members on social media to find out about our work on all these issues, but also we share the importance of all these different issues that we're working on and why these are also important to our state. We also hope you'll talk about tax and budget issues with your family because and friends and network. Tax and budget issues is what we're talking about right now, but unfortunately, they're not as exciting as some other issues, even though we have to have a good revenue stream and good investment in all these programs to make sure that they're really effective in helping our Kansans. And unfortunately, the part about paying for these things often gets left out of the conversation. And so we really need to make sure that people are aware of what our taxes pay for, what goes into our state budget, and the importance of all these programs to our families in our state. The state government makes these big decisions all the time on thousands of bills during the legislative session, but a lot of people don't know or aren't paying attention, and you can help by sharing social media posts, sharing news stories that you see, help raise awareness about what's going on in the Capitol and how these investments matter, and that we need to make sure we have money to make these investments too. And then finally, if you're with an organization that's interested in being part of this coalition, you can reach out to Bruno or I. Bruno will put our email addresses in the chat, and we'll bring that to the coalition. Just let us know. And yes, Ron, if you could email Bruno about that in your organization, please, yes, please reach out to us and share your organization, your interests. Some people have asked if they could sign on as an individual. Unfortunately, for this coalition, it is a coalition of organizations, but we hope to be able to engage with you in other ways, maybe through sign-on letters and things like that, that you can sign as an individual and help support the work of the coalition. But those are the four main things. Sign up for action alerts, follow us on social media, talk about taxes, and then reach out to us if your organization's interested in joining. And I will throw it back to Candace to open up for questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. Are there any questions? Thank you, Ron, for posting a question, for signing on. And if y'all know of anyone else, any other organization that may be interested, as Rebecca stated, have them to contact Bruno or Rebecca. How do I find out if my organization is a current advocate or not? That's the question that just came through.
We have a list of the organizations that are currently members at our website, and I'll put that in the chat again, and you can go on there. There's only 3 pages on the website, so it'll be easy to find. Just click the one that says the list of members, and you'll see there.
Yeah, Bruno just shared the direct link to the coalition members list that I attempted to read off in the beginning of the meeting, but there you will be able to find the full list of current organizations that are part of the coalition. Any more questions? Well, thank you all again for joining us today. I just have to say that I've been a part of quite a few coalitions or groups coming together around legislative priorities. And this has been, if not it has been one of the most structured and put together coalitions. And I have to give major props to Bruno and Rebecca. They have kept everyone, on top of everything. They'll send emails, and they'll just they've been keeping us on top of it. Between Sarah and I, if something comes up, they're communicating with us. So thank you, Bruno and Rebecca, for keeping this ship moving forward.
Great job. I ditto that. Great job.
Yeah. Thank you, Kumar. Yeah, she definitely knows. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be at the Capitol tomorrow at 12 p.m. We'll be in room 272. And there we'll have the official press event for releasing our legislative priorities for the 2023 legislative session. So if you are around, please join us. You all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.